Misting nozzles or spray nozzles come in different spray patterns. Which one is right for your high pressure aeroponic system? Hi, I know that when you go out shopping for your nozzles, you will find it very difficult making a decision on which nozzle should you choose. One of your choices is the spray pattern. You know that nozzles come in different spray patterns. There are two types of cone. There is the full cone, which has the misting on the outside as well as on the center. Then there is the hollow cone, where most of the misting is on the outside of the cone. And then you have a flat spray, which is mostly used for washing. And then you have the stream. So which one is the best to use? What do you think? Well, did you know that one of these patterns is the best when it comes to not clogging and is one of the best of producing a finer mist at lower pressures? So which one do you think it is? Well, stay tuned and you'll find out. Okay, so let's go over the spray patterns of different nozzles. The first one that we will discuss is called the flat fan nozzle. Now the flat fan nozzle, if you were to actually see it spray onto a surface, it would form more like a rectangle shape. And if you were to move from left to right, it would kind of almost use it like a spray gun, for paint spraying. It can either spray vertically or it can spray horizontally. Now, a flat fan nozzle can have an angle from the nozzle of 45 all the way up to 180, which is a really very wide spray. And it can be also a sheet of water, okay, or it could be droplets that make up the spray of the nozzle. So that's the flat fan. Now, when we think about it, aeroponics, do we want to use a flat fan nozzle? No, we do not, okay, because a flat fan nozzle, the distribution is basically confined to a small area, to basically a vertical or a horizontal area. We want the roots to be totally immersed in the mist. So don't choose a flat fan nozzle for high pressure aeroponic systems. Okay, let's talk about the second spray pattern for nozzles, and that is the full cone nozzle. Now, the full cone nozzle has more of a round shape spray pattern. It's commonly used when you want high velocity and you want the spray to travel at a larger distance. A full cone nozzle can produce medium to fine droplets. So it's pretty good in producing 50 microns. Another thing to know about a full cone nozzle is that it's commonly used when the material that needs to be reached is at a good distance away from the nozzle. So how does a full cone nozzle work? Well, what it does is that as the water enters the tip of the nozzle, it swirls the water in a circle fashion before it exits the nozzle. That swirl or disturbance in the water as it exits the nozzle will cause the water droplets to not only form at the edges, but also on the center of the cone. So how's it done? Well, there's either a vane that redirects the water, or there are holes distributed around the nozzle that causes the water to swirl so that it can exit out. Since there's not a straight through path through the nozzle, if you have any type of solids in your nutrient, those solids will start to accumulate inside the nozzle because of the liquid being redirected with either a vane or with these type of holes. So over time, if your nutrient is not clean, your nozzles will fail or clog. And that is most true with full cone nozzles. So the next pattern is a solid stream, which is like a single line of water, or a pinpoint water, or a jet stream water. Sometimes this is used at enough pressure to cut material. It can be used to cut certain types of foam. They use these type of nozzles. Basically, it's a cutting nozzle, so they use water as the way to cut through different material by using these type of nozzles. That is definitely not something that we would choose because we don't want to cut our roots, right? So, and it doesn't generate any type of droplets or mist. So that nozzle is out. So I saved the best for last, and that is the hollow cone spray pattern. Now this spray pattern, the way that it works is that as the water is pressurized through the orifice, and as the water exits the nozzle at a higher velocity rate, the water starts to separate. And as it separates, it causes a mist or droplets. Now what's nice about this nozzle is that because of the design of the orifice, it's less likely to clog compared to the other nozzle designs. That's the beauty of a hollow cone nozzle. So in a hollow cone nozzle, the water kind of like exits in rings or circles from the nozzle. So the center has a very little bit of a mist. Most of the mist is formed on the outer edge of the cone. Another thing to know about hollow cone nozzles is that they tend to have larger orifices to produce the same droplet size as it would for another nozzle. Also too, hollow cone nozzles are used commonly for producing small droplet size, which is exactly what we want. Now, in the industry, hollow cone nozzles are mostly used for dust control, and that's why they have the requirement to produce 50 microns. Nozzles come in different spray angles, meaning that the pattern could be a narrow pattern or it can be a wide pattern. Okay, so a wide pattern would give you better coverage. A narrow pattern would give you more precise spraying at a certain destination. But which one should we choose for our high pressure aeroponic system? I think that this hasn't been discussed too much is that wider spray patterns produce smaller droplet size at lower pressures. That means that if you're running at 100 psi and you're concerned that, oh boy, I'm not producing enough 50 microns, then choose a wider spray pattern. Just by going with a wider spray pattern, you have actually caused that nozzle to produce smaller droplet size. Now the drawback is that the velocity of the droplets leaving the nozzle would tend to fade eventually. That they will tend to disperse and lose direction or to lose their pattern because the angle is so wide and your droplets are so thin that if you're trying to spray something 24 inches away, your mist might not reach it. So that's the drawback. But most of you are probably using growth chambers that are 12 to 16 inches in height. So a spray nozzle at a wider angle will be fine. And when we say a wider angle, what type of angle are we talking about? Well, 120 degrees would be a good angle to start from. Anything from 100 to 120 degrees will work as a good wide angle. Now, some nozzles are rated at 50 microns at 80 degrees, some at 90, some at 65. So those are rated for producing small droplet size, and those are fine. But only go with a wider angle if you have the option to do so, and if you are concerned about producing smaller droplet size at lower pressures. And when I mean lower pressures, I mean between 80 and 100 psi. So that way you stay away from anything above 200 psi, which will cause you to enter into a realm of higher costs and more maintenance. Now, one thing to keep in mind if you're concerned about the hollow cone and about the mist only being generated on the outside of the circle and not on the center of the circle, is that since we are using our nozzles to produce around 50 microns, which is considered a fine mist or on the border of being a fog, the pattern of the spray will start as a hollow cone. But at a very short distance from the nozzle, the pattern will start to lose its coherency and turn into a fog or mist. So that means that at a certain distance, which is normally around 6 inches, the spray pattern starts to lose the hollow cone. And at that point, it just looks like a cloud exiting from the nozzle. So if you're concerned, don't be concerned that it is a hollow cone, because eventually, as it exits the nozzle, within about 6 inches, it returns just into a fog. Okay, so just to wrap it up about all the spray patterns of the nozzle, the recommended nozzle to use is a hollow cone nozzle at the widest angle that you can afford. Now, you don't have to go with a wide angle. It could be as narrow as maybe 45 degrees. If the nozzle is rated for it, then that's fine. But if you think the nozzle is in question of producing small droplet size, then go with a wider angle nozzle and you will fare better. Another thing to know about hollow cone nozzles is that when it comes to having clogging, it has the less likelihood of clogging than all the other nozzles. So that's another reason why you want to choose a hollow cone nozzle. So please subscribe right here now on Aeroponics DIY and let us take you where no gardener has gone before.